Louis Paul Bremer III is an American diplomat. He is best known for leading the Occupational Authority of Iraq following the 2003 invasion by the United States. He served in this capacity from May 11, 2003 until June 28, 2004. Early life and education. Born in Hartford, Connecticut, Bremer was educated at New Canaan Country School and Philip Sandover Academy. Bremer's father was president of the Christian Dior Perfumes Corporation in New York, and his mother was a lecturer in art history at the University of Bridgeport. Bremer graduated from Yale University in 1963 and went on to earn an MBA from Harvard University in 1966. He later continued his education at the Institut d'études politiques de Paris, where he earned a certificate of political studies. Early career: Foreign Service. The same year he joined the Foreign Service, which sent him first to Kabul, Afghanistan, as a General Services Officer. He was assigned to Blantyre, Malawi, as Economic and Commercial Officer from 1968 to 1971. During the 1970s, Bremer held various domestic posts with the U.S. State Department, including posts as an assistant to Henry Kissinger from 1972 to 1976. He was Deputy Chief of Mission in Oslo, Norway, from 1976 to 1979, returning to the United States to take a post of Deputy Executive Secretary of the Department of State, where he remained from 1979 until 1981. In 1981, he was promoted to Executive Secretary and Special Assistant to Alexander Haig. Ronald Reagan appointed Bremer as ambassador to the Netherlands in 1983, despite the fact that he did not know any Dutch, and ambassador-at-large for counter-terrorism and coordinator for counter-terrorism in 1986. Private sector. Bremer retired from the Foreign Service in 1989 and became managing director at Kissinger & Associates, a worldwide consulting firm founded by Henry Kissinger, a career member of the senior Foreign Service class of career minister. Bremer received the State Department Superior Honor Award, 2 Presidential Meritorious Service Awards, and the Distinguished Honor Award from the Secretary of State. Before rejoining government in 2003, he was chairman and CEO of Marsh Crisis Consulting, a risk and insurance services firm which is a subsidiary of Marsh & Amp McLennan Companies. He also served as a trustee on the Economic Club of New York, and a board member of Air Products and Chemicals, Inc., AkzoNobel NV, the Harvard Business School Club of New York, and the Netherlands America Foundation. He served on the international advisory boards of Komatsu Corporation and Chugai Pharmaceuticals. Bremer and 1,700 of the employees of Marsh & Amp McLennan had offices in the World Trade Center. Bremer's office was in the North Tower. In an interview with CNN after the September 11 attacks, he stated that their office was located above where the second aircraft hit. Bremer and his wife were the founders of the Lincoln Douglas Scholarship Foundation, a Washington-based non-profit that provides high school scholarships to inner-city youths. National Commission on Terrorism. Bremer was appointed chairman of the National Commission on Terrorism by House Speaker Dennis Hastert in 1999. The report, Countering the Changing Threat of International Terrorism, was published in June 2000. He also served on the National Academy of Sciences Committee on Science and Technology for Countering Terrorism, which authored a 2002 report called Making the Nation Safer: The Role of Science and Technology in Countering Terrorism. Governor of Iraq. Bremer was appointed by President Bush as presidential envoy to Iraq on May 9, 2003. His appointment declared him subject to the authority, direction and control of Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. Bremer arrived in Iraq in May 2003. On May 11 he replaced Lt. General J. Garner as Director of the Office for Reconstruction and Humanitarian Assistance. In June, the office was transformed into the Coalition Provisional Authority, and Bremer became the country's chief executive authority. As the holder of the most powerful foreign post held by any American since Gen. Douglas MacArthur in Japan, he compared himself to MacArthur as well as General Lucius Clay, who was in charge of the American zone in Germany following its defeat in World War II. As the top civilian administrator of the former Coalition Provisional Authority, Bremer was permitted to rule by decree. Among his first and most notable decrees were Coalition Provisional Authority Order No. 1, which banned the Ba'ath Party in all forms, and Coalition Provisional Authority Order No. 2 dismantled the Iraqi army. On July 13, 2003, Bremer approved the creation of an Iraqi interim governing council with the stated mission of ensuring that the Iraqi people's interests are represented. The council members were chosen by Bremer from among groups and individuals which had supported the American invasion of Iraq. Bremer retained veto power over the council's proposals. The council was authorized to select a limited number of delegates to key coalition provisional authority committees, like the Program Review Board. Bremer also empowered the CPA to develop and implement the Iraqi constitution. The constitution, however, turned into a controversial subject when its first draft submitted by the CPA suggested banning political parties opposed to the U.S. occupation from participating in elections, privatizing much of Iraq's industries and natural resources, and allowing the unelected Iraqi interim governing council to sign a binding status of forces agreement between Iraq and the United States. On March 1, 2004, after several hours of negotiations, the Iraqi Interim Governing Council resolved the disagreements the council members had with clauses in the Constitution. A formal signing ceremony was scheduled for March 5, 2004. As the guests waited and the orchestra played, the signing was cancelled due to mass demonstrations among Iraq's population. The official signing finally took place for an interim constitution, to be revised or replaced by a second constitution after Iraqi elections on March 8, 2004. On June 28, 2004, at 10:26 a.m. a local time, the U.S.-led Coalition Provisional Authority formally transferred limited sovereignty of Iraqi territory to the Iraqi interim government, 2 days ahead of schedule. Bremer departed from the country on the same day. In his farewell speech broadcast on Iraqi television, he said, "I leave Iraq gladdened by what has been accomplished and confident that your future is full of hope. A piece of my heart will always remain here in the beautiful land between the two rivers, with its fertile valleys, its majestic mountains and its wonderful people." Bremer's office was a division of the U.S. Department of Defense, and as administrator he reported directly to the United States Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. His senior advisor Dan Senor served as coalition spokesman, working with military spokesman Mark Kimmett. Bremer's role as the head of the CPA is notable for being the subject of much criticism. Large sums of money have been reported to have gone missing under Bremer's leadership. Bremer's attempts at privatizing much of Iraq's infrastructure and mineral wealth were also highly criticized, and the decision, apparently formulated in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, to disband the Iraqi army is widely credited for fueling the Iraqi insurgency against the American occupation. John Negroponte replaced Bremer as the highest-ranking American civilian in Iraq. After Iraq, Public speaking. After his return from Iraq, Bremer engaged in a few speaking tours. On December 14, 2004, Bremer was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Bush, America's highest civil award for especially meritorious contributions to the security and national interests of the United States, to world peace, horticultural or other significant public or private endeavors. He was also presented with the Department of Defense Award for Distinguished Public Service, and the Nixon Library honored him with the Victory of Freedom Award for demonstrating leadership and working towards peace and freedom. Bremer's April 18, 2005 visit as a guest speaker to Clark University led to protests against his role in the Iraq War. Dissatisfied with Bremer's speech and answers, several students also voiced disappointment at the university for having paid him $40,000. Another appearance, scheduled for the public library of his hometown, New Canaan, Connecticut, on January 18, 2006, was moved to the private St. Luke School in the same town for fear for protests. During a February 27, 2006 public appearance at Lynchburg College, where his sister-in-law is an assistant dean, Bremer insisted that his decision to disband the Iraqi military was the correct one. Among other things, Bremer repeatedly asserted that when he came to Iraq, the Iraqi army had abandoned its barracks, and therefore, there was no army to disband. He also repeatedly defended his decision to expel Ba'ath Party members from government posts by comparing Saddam Hussein with Adolf Hitler. On February 6, 2007, Bremer appeared before a congressional committee investigating fraud and abuse and was questioned about missing funds during his tenure as head of the CPA and to respond to a January 2005 audit, including the missing $8.8 billion of Iraq's money and the chosen accounting method of these funds. Memoir. In 2006, Bremer published a memoir called My Year in Iraq: The Struggle to Build a Future of Hope, which has been described as an almost day-by-day narrative that sticks to what Bremer was doing and with whom he was interacting, without providing much analysis or introspection. Michiko Kakutani of the New York Times characterized it as an amalgam of spin and sincerity, is partly an explanation of actions Mr. Bremer took as America's man in Baghdad, partly an effort to issue some "I told you SOs" to administration colleagues, and partly an attempt to spread responsibility by tracing just who in the White House, Pentagon and State Department signed off on or ordered critical decisions made during his tenure. His media commentary is generally critical of the Obama administration for not devoting more effort to promoting democracy overseas. He is also a consistent advocate for continued U.S. presence in Iraq. On the other hand, while many other conservatives began advocating for a withdrawal from Afghanistan, Bremer endorsed the administration's new strategy in 2010, describing it as reasonable and giving Obama credit for deciding to replicate President Bush's Iraq strategy by sending more troops to the fight in Afghanistan. He has also endorsed Samuel P. Huntington's Clash of Civilizations thesis, stating, "It is a fact of history that Europe is based on Judeo-Christian values. But Europe seems unwilling, or perhaps afraid, to acknowledge this reality." Painting and writing. After taking art lessons at a school in Glen Echo, Maryland, in 2007, Bremer began doing oil paintings of New England country landscapes, which he sells through his company Bremer Enterprises. He sells proceeds to the Historical Societies of Chester and Grafton in Vermont, where he moved after his public retirement. He has self-mockingly described his style of painting as evolving American primitive. The Bremer Enterprises website also provides links to books by Bremer and his wife Frances Winfield Bremer, in addition to his 2006 memoir. In September 2011, Bremer published From Sea to Shining Sea, Biking Across America with Wounded Warriors, on Amazon.com's Kindle platform via Bremer Enterprises board activities. He also engages in consulting work and serves on a number of boards. Bremer currently serves as chairman of the advisory board for Global Secure Corporation, a company whose focus is on securing the homeland with integrated products and services for the critical incident response community worldwide, and on the board of directors of BlastGuard International, a Florida-based company that manufactures materials to mitigate the impact of explosions. In November 2010, Bremer joined World.He Sports, a Holbrook, New York-based non-profit, as CEO and president. Bremer also served as a member of the organization's board of directors. He retired from the organization in March 2012 and as of 2015 was listed as a special advisor. Bremer formerly served as a member of the board of directors of the International Republican Institute. He received the America Award of the Italy USA Foundation in 2013.